does that even mean, Bowers game corner?
Ahoy there, YouTube! I'm back again today for another game review, and today we're excited to check out the Scythe Modular Board from Stonemaier Games. Ahoy there, YouTube! I'm back again today for another game review and a special expansion review. And today we're excited to check out the Scythe Modular Board from Stonemaier Games. So this is an expansion to the immensely popular Scythe, the action selection game that came out a couple of years ago. It was a huge hit. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. So much of a hit that they decided to release the Scythe Invaders from Afar expansion and the Scythe Windgambit expansion. And last year, one of the best expansions I've ever played in my entire life, the Scythe Rise of Fenris expansion, which are all really great expansions. So does it really need another expansion? Let's open it up and I'll tell you what I think. Alrighty then, we're going to take a look at what you're going to get inside of the Scythe modular board. Before we get started, I do want to mention I'm not going over the rules for Scythe, just showing you what's new inside the Scythe modular board and how it works. So first and foremost, we have our handy dandy rules. There are 2 pages, assuming you speak English. If you speak another language, it's still 2 pages. Very well done, should have you up and running in no time at all. You'll probably need it once or twice, and the only reason you'll probably come back to it is to look at the structure tiles to make sure you're doing those correctly. So thumbs up on the rule book. So in the Scythe modular board, you're going to get a couple things. So let's just get to the start of the show, which is obviously the board, which has changed, as you can see, ever so slightly. And the other big thing is it is double-sided, which is really stinking cool. So you randomly just pick one of the sides, whichever one you want to play with, just boop, flip it over, and you can get yourself up and running. So nice addition to that. The next thing is you'll notice there's some big, wide open blank spaces on the board, and that is where you're going to be placing these tiles randomly. So these tiles are double-sided, which is also super nice. You're just going to place them out there on the board. There's one minor rule where you can't be next to a river, but other than that, you're just going to be placing them. Now, this is a really intriguing addition to the game for a variety of reasons. So the first thing I really like about this, and it's a low-key thing you might not even think about, is that you can completely block off one corner of the board. Like, literally, there's just nothing there. So that way, if you're playing with specific player counts, say lower player counts, say you're playing a 3-player, you got one guy here, one guy here, one guy here, this guy's not going to have a huge advantage of being able to take this and then just running over here to capture all this stuff and get all the juicy encounters. So I do like the fact that you can just not play with one of those. But the other really interesting addition to the game is it can lead to a lot more. So, for instance, check out this guy right here. He's not even landlocked anymore. He can just kind of run through there, but at the cost of being, pretty close to somebody else who can just come over here and attack him. It also leads to this scenario right here, which, let me see if I can get that over there so you can see it a little bit better, where that guy has an encounter right next to him. So he literally, on move 1, it's kind of obvious, just move, you get yourself an encounter, and who knows what you're going to get. You could have a mech on turn 1, you could have a whole bunch of resources, it really opens up the potential for the game. I really do like this. It's a really neat addition to the game, but I shouldn't be telling you that. I'll tell you more about that in the pros and the cons. The next thing that is a new addition to the game are these tiles right here, which are going to randomize where you start. Now, this doesn't sound like a big deal if you don't play much Scythe, but if you do play much Scythe, you're like, what? That's fantastic. So my particular favorite race of Scythe always is metal starved. I can never get metal unless I get it from the encounters, and it's just annoying because I want to get those mechs out there. I want to start unlocking my special abilities. I want to do this, I want to do that, but I need that metal, and I don't want to cross over to the river. This makes it so that you might be starting with resources that you never start with in Scythe, and it's a really interesting addition, and it kind of changes how you play the faction, which I really do like, and I think people who are big fans of Scythe are really going to enjoy that. You'll also notice there's a blank one right here, so if you have Scythe Rise of Fenris, you take the 2 new races from Scythe Rise of Fenris, spoilers I guess, and you're going to mix those up, and you'll have one that essentially is not being played with at a time. So the last thing you're going to get with the expansion are the 8 new structure bonus tiles, which I kind of hope they release as a micro expansion for people who don't want to splurge for the board and everything, because it is really cool just to have these extra ones to add in. So this one, you have to create the diamond shape as best as you can, and as close as you get to it, you're going to get a certain number of points. Obviously, 2, 3, 4 is low, but if you get all 4 in that perfect diamond, you're going to get 9 points, which is really nice. This one is you need to be next to home bases and the factory to score points. So obviously, the first 2 are going to be pretty easy. You can just build next to yourself, but getting that 3rd and that 4th one going to be slightly more difficult. And actually, you don't even need to get the third and the fourth one. We didn't play this one because getting 3 will, boom, get you 9 points. So that's interesting. Likewise with this one, not touching other people's tiles. Now, I do like the fact that they put 3 or 4 on here because other people can kind of jam you out of points, but at the same time, they're jamming themselves out of points as well. So this one is don't be near any other structure. This one is a really difficult one, it sounds like, where you have to build around a lake. So you have to have tiles around the same lake. Not just any old lake, the same lake you have to build around. And likewise, the same encounter. So you have to have 4 around the same encounter if you want to score the max points for that one. This one is you want to build only on encounters, so that will get you the points. Likewise, this one is you can build on metal or on wood to get those oh-so-delicious points. And then last, we have building only on the spots that produce meeples. And you can just randomly mix in those with everything from the base games and just simple add in. But there you go. That's what you're going to get inside of the Scythe modular board. Alrighty then, the Scythe modular board from Stonemaier Games. What are my final thoughts? Let's go over the pros, let's go over the cons. First, on the con side, game's not going to be for everybody for a variety of different reasons. If you didn't like the original Scythe for one reason or another, I don't know if this is necessarily going to sway your opinion. If you're looking for an expansion that will sway your opinion, I'd highly recommend the Rise of Fenris, because that absolutely shakes up a whole bunch of things fundamentally, whereas this is more just about variability and different starting places on the map, and I think it's more for diehard fans of Scythe, or just really big fans of Scythe. Continuing on with the cons, I do have 2 cons with the board. The first one is that it's not the giant, massive board. So if you remember from the original Scythe, it had the giant, massive board. You actually had to piecemeal together 2 boards, and it just created like this huge map, and you felt kind of like a general looking over your troops, deciding where your mechs should go and your people should be, and it creates this really cool aspect to the game. Obviously, it was not a viable option to make this board that massive board, so it's more like a Ticket to Ride style board, which is still a big stinking board, but that will be a turnoff to some people. The other con that I have with it, and take this one with a grain of salt because I'm not 100% sure, because I actually have a different copy of Scythe. I've got the Art Connoisseurs Collector's Edition, which has like a big art book. You can't fit, I could not fit, the original base board and this board into the base box. Now that being said, if you don't like playing with the gigantic board, you could just easily take it out and throw this in there. So that might actually be a pro for a lot of people if you're confined with table space. So take that one way or the other. Any other cons I have with the game? The last con I have of this game is that of the 4 expansions released for the game that I know of, you know, Rise of Fenris, the Wind Gambit, and the one that comes with the 2 new tribes, the guy with the traps and whatnot, I'd say this is my least favorite of the 4. Now, that being said, I still think this is a great expansion. It's just there's not nearly as much content in this expansion as opposed to the other expansions that have came out. So if you're looking to get your first Scythe expansion, this is not the one I would recommend going for. I recommend picking up the other 3 first and then coming back to this one, which kind of makes it just for hardcore fans or collectors, to be honest with you. Any other cons I have with the game? No, moving on to the pros. The Scythe modular board's great. I really, really dig this, and I recommend it to you. If you have the other 3 expansions, and if you like Scythe an awful lot, you get it to the table on a pretty routine basis, this is a no-brainer. It creates some really cool scenarios where you're going to be immediately potentially combative with other people, or immediately able to go out and get an encounter on the first turn, as I mentioned in the middle part, which could completely change your strategy. It also is really cool if you play a lot of Scythe, as I mentioned in the middle part, because you're just so used to being starved for people or wood or metal, and now with the modular board you might have people and metal right from the jump, which is going to completely change your strategy that you would normally do, and I like that aspect an awful lot. I also like the fact that some people are not even going to be confined by water anymore. It's just like they can walk all the way around the board for the most part, which will completely change what they do. You know, no longer is about racing in to get that first mech so you can cross the river. Now they're doing something completely different. So I think if you are a Scythe fan, like a big Scythe fan, I think this is absolutely something you're going to want to get, because it really does change up the game. And as much as I love that big board, I don't think I'm ever not going to play with the Scythe modular board, because it's no... like if you're teaching someone new, there's nothing new to explain here. I do like the inclusion of the 8 new tiles that you can mix in, the structure bonus tiles, and I hope they come out with just a micro expansion of just those, or even more of those, because it does add just another source of variability to the game. And in the end, the Scythe modular board is an easy recommendation if you're a big fan of Scythe. If you're not a big fan of Scythe, or if you don't have the other expansions, I'd recommend going to get those first. But in the end, Scythe modular board, Great expansion for Scythe. Easy recommendation. If you enjoyed this review, please be sure to click on that subscribe button down below. If you want to support the channel, click on that little Amazon Associates link down there. Buy anything on Amazon, save amazing great prices, but it throws a couple pennies my way. And in the comments below, let me know, what is a game that you have the most stuff for? So which game takes up the biggest chunk of your gaming space, so to speak? So for me personally, I got a lot of Mage Wars stuff. I got a lot of Scythe stuff. I got 5 Dominion boxes. I think it's this. I do think it is, honestly, Scythe. I got Twilight Imperium 3rd Edition plus the 2 expansions, but all that fits into the base box. So I think it is the Scythe. I think Scythe is the biggest like space hog that I have for all of my games. Let me know in the comments below. Which game do you... Oh, and Pandemic. No, Pandemic's a smaller box, even though I do have 3 expansions. But let me know in the comments below. Which game takes up the most space in your collection? And as always, thanks for your time, YouTube.